Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Excited to have our friend Maureen O'Shaughnessy joining us here again today. We're going to talk more about LEADPrep and all she does. First, let me have the lady of the hour introduce herself to start. Hi, Maureen.
Hey, Jill. Thanks for having me. I'm Dr. Maureen O'Shaughnessy, and I love microschools. I founded one 10 years ago in Seattle. I've written a book on it. My podcast talks a lot about it. I am all about small learning communities where kids don't fall through the cracks.
Beautiful. And I know I've gotten to know her the past few weeks, and she shared her own experience with her own travels and what she's done for her children. And I mean, I just credit you. You've done so much and you continue to do so. And you're based out of where specifically?
Seattle.
Perfect. And how can we reach out to you?
So Maureen at educationevolution.org or go to the educationevolution.org website.
Awesome. Well, excited to have you back here. And I know today you want to kind of start by talking about radical inclusion. Could you share a little bit about that and we'll emphasize it?
Absolutely. Right now, our country is going through a big time of anxiety and depression and isolation and kids on screens and not having friends. And so the important movement to have DEI, to have diversity, equity, and inclusion, the acronym now has a B on the end of it, belonging. So love and belonging have to be a part of it. If you have diversity, but kids still feel left out, or if you're including and those are your policies and kids don't feel that sense of belonging, something is wrong. So we are about economic, racial, gender, neurotypical, neurodiverse, all of these kinds of diversities. We are about having them all in our microschool and multi-age. So even that age and what grade are you doesn't matter. And when you put your emphasis on love and belonging and on radical inclusion, the other pieces come together, and the IEPs, the 504s, all of those plans that give special directions. It's happening when you see kids and when kids value each other and are valued for their uniqueness. When you have that radical inclusion, a lot of other pieces fall in place.
Oh, that's beautiful because, we've talked about this. Look, my kids go to public school, but there are a lot of cracks and holes in the system. I have a special needs nephew. I understand, he's in the public school system, but there's still not that his needs are not being met fully where they could be elsewhere. I believe in that. I was just away with my sister on vacation and we were talking about this because her son is special needs and they moved him to a different school, but in the public system, but he's in a special class. He's being taken care of well. And then I told her that I met you and I said I know it's they can't afford, but there's private schools and we talk about all the work she's doing and she's trying to contact the state now finally to try to get some help, but it's not an easy thing. And your kid, everyone's kid is so unique, so special, and they should have that dedication. And I know another vital part of micro schools and what you do is the teachers, right? Because they really are a vital part of this. Would you mind sharing your thoughts on the teacher aspect as well?
Celine, I want to back up to your sister
Thank you.
because schools need to look at, especially private schools, you need to look at, are your classes full? If they're not full, if you have empty seats, you can be offering those seats for no money, for minimal money. And we have a sliding scale and have never turned anybody away based on socioeconomics because that's another form of inclusion. Sometimes schools have a scholarship policy. We only have this much money in scholarships. And that's a deficit thinking. If you have seats and you have teachers and you already have the rooms rented or owned or whatever, you have room for those kids. And so we can have a lot more socioeconomic inclusion if we think that way. So I just have to add that in because there may be some schools that she could address that could really rethink that and be a little more generous.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then teacher relationships, that goes back to belonging. We all want to be seen and heard and valued, and our teachers are magical. They get that relationships are the most important part, that neuroscience tells us. First, we have to feel safe. Then we have to feel like we're part of a community before we're ready to take those risks and engage in learning and really contribute. So our teachers spend a lot of time, they do check-ins with the kids so they can all connect. They're out playing soccer with the kids. They'll say, hey, how was that music concert that you went to this weekend? They know the kids, and that relationship piece means they can also unpack things. Hey, you guys don't look like you're getting along. Do we want to talk about this? What's going on? Hey, this looks too easy or too hard. How can we adjust this for you? So our kids, one of the main reasons they really like coming back is that sense of community and being known by their teachers.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. And by the way, how does it work? With education evolution, with your program, your teachers, I'm sure they're well certified, they're well credentialed, but are they specific to someone's needs or specific? I know kind of grade doesn't really matter, but how does it work? Because in the public school system, you have elementary school teachers, you have
Mhm.
science, math teachers. Just curious how it works with micro schools.
So private schools don't have to have state certification. So
Okay.
in the past, I had an MD who was our doctor. I had a retired Microsoft engineer, or excuse me, who were our math teachers. So people can come in with real world experience. They don't necessarily have to have that teacher certificate. So we really get rich experiences and backgrounds from our teachers. And then I truthfully love people with an elementary background, even though we're a middle and high school at LEADPrep, because that is they're trained to kind of look at the whole child, and does this kid have friends at recess, and are they eating their lunch? So I like that background, but we have a variety of people that are trained in science, English, math, social studies, and they come in and they can flex and they co-teach when they're not the lead teachers. So it works out really well.
Awesome. All right. And you also have embedded social, emotional, or SEL practices. Could you share a little bit about that and what the multi-tiered systems of support is specifically?
Absolutely. So we are all about social and emotional learning, SEL, being embedded. So we start and end our day with reflection. We have a lot of time where we're unpacking how are we doing emotionally, or whoa, what's going on in this situation, or what emotions would you use? And one of our parents made this great emotion wheel, and kids can use magnets and find they have like 50 choices to choose from. And some are really active emotions, or some are quieter emotions, some are positive, some aren't positive. And kids practice identifying those just to get really clear and identify what they are feeling. And then they ask for what they need. And we are happy to give that to them. We also work on regulation. I'm a 1, I'm like grounded. I'm a 3, I'm kind of not really in this moment. I'm a 4, I am about to either lose it or shut down. So we can ask kids that, and
Yeah.
that helps us like, okay, wow, you're a 4. What do you need right now? I really need to get some fresh air. I really need some time just sitting in the calm cave and regrouping. So we were working on all these life skills that we need when we're dealing with a colleague that's not pleasant, or traffic. We need to have these awarenesses and regulation. And then there's a multi-tiered system of supports in a lot of schools. And tier 1 supports are what every kid needs. Every kid needs help with organizing. Every kid needs that executive functioning and that support. Tier 2 is like when you have to have some small group and really hone in, maybe fill in some gaps. Tier 3 supports are they're the one-on-one supports where you need extra help for a kid that has specific challenges. And we have an SLP and an OT and a counselor, and they come in and they observe, they work with the kids, they work with us every week, they train parents, they train us, and they help us look through different lenses at what different needs are and what supports we could offer. So having that tiered support system and knowing kind of what supports a kid might need, what level, help us really personalize. So we're not one-on-one with every kid when a lot of kids are like, get out of my way, I can do this, so that we get it right and we can personalize depending on the level of needs of a kid.
Got it. All right. And you also believe in and you practice it's one day out of the classroom, right? Could you share how that
Mhm.
works and the benefits of that?
Absolutely. So we have instruction 4 days a week. And even then, we can do journaling outside and we can take a walk to the park during club time. So there's still flexibility to get out and about. But we really believe that learning happens so much beyond the 4 walls. So once a week, we have service, we have guest speakers, or we have field trips. So maybe we've gone to the University of Washington's planetarium, or maybe we've gone to Aegis Memory Loss, and we have been volunteers with grandparents and help them with an art
Hmm.
project. But our kids learn so much by being out in the community and by giving back and by being in nature. So to us, that is super important. And then 3 weeks of the year, we do full weeks of this. So a camping trip in the fall, which green time is the perfect counterbalance to so much screen time. And it really helps kids, and they don't get to bring electronics. It really helps them connect with each other and with nature in a different way. And then between semesters at the end of January, our teachers pick a passion area. And then the kids get to sign up for what they want. So it might be cooking with one teacher, or it might be wilderness and snowshoeing and survival out in the snow up in Snoqualmie Pass with another teacher, or creating a song and performing it for others, or photography. So when our teachers are passionate and kids get a chance to tap into that and they really appreciate the passion, they get to explore different areas that maybe wouldn't be in a regular school. And we're trying to get them to understand their passions, their purpose, so that they can go out and make choices in college or in jobs that align with things that really mean something to them, so that their lives have meaning.
So that's part of your Bridges to Life program, right? Is that what you offer?
Absolutely. As the kids are figuring out their passions, we encourage them on those Wednesdays when they're 11th and 12th graders to do kind of pursuing career pieces, do an informational interview, job shadows, and even intern, and use those Wednesdays to see what's it like in the real world. So we've had kids intern with families, with realtors, with animal shelters, with business offices, and just get a sense of, wow, this is not what I thought it was, and I don't like it, or I love it, I want more. I want to start my own photography company. I want to go get a certificate and have more training and take off on this. So kids have a sense of what it is out there in the real world before they commit to the training or diving into a career path without really experiencing it.
Got it. All right. Dr. Maureen O'Shaughnessy, just remind us again how we can reach out to you before we continue.
Absolutely. Maureen at educationevolution.org. And Education Evolution is where my podcast is. And then lead-prep.org is the micro school.
Awesome. And we're going to talk more now about project-based learning, or better known as PBL, right? And how that's infused, you mentioned, with design thinking. So let's talk a little bit how that works.
Absolutely. So we know there's a scientific method, but we can really use design thinking in everything that we do. And project management is now a college degree. So how do you take an idea, do the research, do some trial runs on it? Who's the audience that it's going to be for in the end? And how does that guide you? How do you get feedback? How do you do different iterations? Is design thinking. And we want kids to go through that, because that's real world. What am I going to do? Here's my hypothesis. How am I going to make that happen? And then we want to embed this design thinking in projects. So some people say, oh yeah, I do projects at the end of my unit after we've read the chapters and done everything. My kids design a little project to summarize it. And that's nice, but it's even better if the project is the learning. If you can say, hey, here's the content. And now what are you going to do? What are you going to create to demonstrate how this works, how we get from physical energy to electrical energy? What can you design? How can you go through the design process and create this? How can you do model United Nations and learn these concepts and support your country in the environmental issues? And how is it different in South Africa from how it is in Tunisia? So taking huge projects for the quarter and then having the kids unpack and build for the whole quarter. And then we're assessing the whole way through, because we're watching them build and they're getting real-time feedback. They're finding it doesn't always work on the first time and they have to do iterations, but they don't mind as much because it's not like editing for a paper that a teacher is just going to see. They have an audience at the end that they're sharing it with.
Got it. Well, thank you for sharing that. Also, let's talk about flip lessons and what that means, and of course, how that helps support learners being active in their learning. Could you share what that means? What are flip lessons? I saw
Absolutely.
that.
Yes. So there's that saying, you tell me how to fish, blah, blah, blah. But if I get to fish myself, I really own it.
Okay.
And when teachers talk the whole period, listening is like the least effective way to learn. If the kids get to repeat it back, if they get to create it, the more engaged they are, the more active they are, the better chance they have of retention. And it's pretty easy just to get up as a teacher and an expert and talk the whole period and then send kids home to do work. But these two science teachers in Colorado flipped that, and it's called flipped learning, and it's taken off. And John Bergman, he's in some of my podcasts and amazing, has a new book out that he bases his science teaching around competencies. And he flips it so that instead of kids going home to work on their own and parents trying to help them, the work gets done in school. And to make that work get done at school where he can go around and coach people and they can help each other out, the lecture has to go somewhere else. So the
Yeah.
lecture is a mini video in advance that he records. It has key concepts, may have some questions he needs to ask, and we do the same thing. We tell our teachers we shouldn't hear you talking more than 2 or 3 minutes. You've already given the lecture. The kids watched the flip before they came to school today. Now they need to dive in and do the project with you as a guide. Instead of the expert up at front, you're the guide moving around. So flipping it so that the content is really focused and in advance, it means the kids get that work time. It also means if I'm in a lecture and I miss something, it's like I might be trying to scramble and catch up from somebody else's notes, but then I'm missing more. A video means I can go back as many times as I need to get it. Or if I'm out sick, instead of counting on notes, which are not the same as the lecture, I have that video clip that I can go back to. So flipped learning puts kids as active learners during the school day, and teachers have to get short and sweet with the key content and then have projects for the kids to work on in class to demonstrate that they understand what the content was about.
I love that idea. I've never heard of that until today. You see, I'm learning here too, and that's got to be beneficial for children. I think the watching the video for sure and do it that
And
way.
parents get to watch it too if they want to,
And mm-hmm,
because by
helps
high school,
us. Mm-hmm.
yeah, high school kids don't go home. Guess what I learned today? So parents go, oh my gosh, you're doing this. Hey. So parents have access to it and they might be able to say, hey, let's go this weekend. We can check out this place that can demonstrate what you're doing. So parents aren't left out as kids start to push away.
Got it. All right. And let's talk about the hours of your school. What are the normal hours of your school?
So our school starts at 9 o'clock. And I have been in high schools where they have a 0 hour, and that starts as early as 6:30. And a lot of public schools, you have the big kids on the buses first because it's dark out, and then the middle school and then the elementary. And so the bus schedule drives the start of the school day. So then it becomes this assumption, oh, school day should start at 7:45 or something. And we know teens, their brains, they're not winding down. They're not getting to sleep as early. They need their sleep. So we just decided we're not a school bus system. We have a shuttle for our Kirkland kids to get to Seattle, but otherwise, parents drive them. But there is nothing magical about starting that early. And we all, as we've taught in high school, and I have my first period class, they're just half awake and it's nobody participates. And by the end of the day, they're all alive. But why not start a little later? Why not let them get their sleep so that they're healthier and they can come to school ready to participate and learn?
I love that too. Yeah, my sister's son, the one who has special needs, gets on the bus at 6:30 every day. You know what that's like? And he
Ugh,
can't sleep. It's I find it
right.
torturous. I'm not a fan of this early morning school hour. And yeah, and what time does school end, by the way? So
So
9
3
to
3:45, but the last 15 minutes of the day, we start to watch their flips with them. So they may not even have to take it home as homework and we could answer their questions. Otherwise, we have no homework. So the rest of the school day is truly theirs. Excuse me, the rest of the afternoon
yeah.
is theirs. And they get to have a life and they get to get up and move. Everybody needs to move more. And so this allows kids to have an after school job or sports or whatever they want and not have hours of homework at 11 p.m.
That's the big, yeah, that is the downfall of public school. I'm going to be honest. My kids are 6 and 8, but my niece and nephew, they're teenagers, and everyone comes home dreading the homework, complaining because they have sports, they have things, and I feel like it gets in the way and it makes them hate school. And I'm like,
Mhm.
why are we torturing them? They left school. Why are we doing more work? I understand kind of, but not really. And I commend you on that. I really appreciate that. I think a public school can get a lecture from you today. I hope they're listening. So how do teachers do reverse engineer planning to create the learning themes and projects? Could you share that?
Yeah, so there's something called understanding by design that's amazing, and it's been around for quite a while, and that's reverse engineering. So a lot of times we just cover the textbook and
Yeah.
whatever, it's leading, or we have a cool project that we want to do with kids, and it's saying, well, wait, how about we start with a theme and an
Mm-hmm.
essential question, a question that doesn't have an answer that you could dig in at every different age level, and it could be richer. How about if we start out with what's that essential question we want to ask, and what are a couple of knowledge points we want and a couple of skills we want for this quarter or for this grading period? So start out knowing what our topic is and our goals. What are the competencies we're aiming for? And then how would we know if kids have met those competencies, if they get it? How will we assess this? What will it look like if a student understands these concepts? And
Mm-hmm.
only then plan the activities. and the activities help the kids meet the assessments that were part of the theme and the essential question, the competencies, the knowledge, the skills. So it's going backwards instead of activities first. Activities are only after you have the big picture, you know what you're assessing and how, then you build the activities. And it makes perfect sense, and it makes learning meaningful and intentional, and makes it much easier for the kids to own it than when a teacher has to get through all of this content. And it's about covering and not about deep learning around themes. And we all learn better when it's around a theme instead of little isolated points. And it gets us beyond memorization. We don't need 1980s, 1970s learning. We can just Google that in a heartbeat. We need to know what to do with it and how to interact with it and how to work with others. So it gets us to those places of deeper learning, higher level thinking, and gets kids ready for a world that doesn't exist yet. Instead of memorizing stuff that they could research and they don't know what to do with it. So they know how to do school, but they don't know how to do life. So we want them to know how to think and how to do life after high school.
Guilty. See, I was the ones always using the what do you call them? Index cards to write
Yes.
everything down, to study, to memorize, to get that A, to study, to
Mhm.
memorize, and but then I lose it, and I would lose it, and I agree. It's good to know it instead of memorize it, but in our system, sometimes it doesn't work that way. It's. All right, that's another
Yeah.
good one. Collaboration also with families. I know you wanted to get into and outside resources as well.
Absolutely. I really feel, and I experienced this as a mom, it's super hard when school does one piece of the puzzle and then you go to counseling for another piece. We have some students
Hmm.
that need some help with writing, or they're having tutoring to get ready for college tests. All of this is in isolation and in silos. And I've been at big high schools where it's like, hey, this tutor wants to talk to you to help get the kid ready for science. And the teacher's like, no, I'm really busy. I don't have time to catch tutors up. And so it's like, all these people working in isolation don't support the kid, and it means a lot more running around for the kid and the family. So wraparound support is the idea that the supports are all in the school and that we're all on Team Julian or Team Eloise. We're all a part of that team. So oftentimes parents and schools are kind of butting heads because parents really want to get those needs met. And I've been in that situation, and we're all on the same team at LEADPrep. And once the parents understand that, if they've come from a different experience, it's amazing. They're like, hey, can we do a sign a release of information so their counselor can talk to the teachers and understand how is that stress manifesting in school? And the teachers can talk to the counselor and understand what strategies are being recommended so they can practice them at school. And can we have the tutor come in and observe your class and see
Hmm.
what's going on and how it's done, and meet with your teacher? And it's like, absolutely, we want to be that one wraparound team.
Yeah. Oh, oh, I love it. Dr. Maureen O'Shaughnessy, just to remind everyone how we can reach you.
Yes. So it's Maureen at educationevolution.org, and the school is lead-prep.org.
Awesome. And also, when can we find your podcast? Tell us more about it.
Yeah. So education evolution is my hobby. I love finding amazing things happening in the world of education. It could be with 3-year-olds, it could be with college students, and highlighting that. So I've had John Bergman, who does flipped learning. He's been on my podcast twice. So we've been going, I think, about 180 episodes.
Oh
And
my goodness.
yeah, so it's so fun. You can find something that could work in a rural school, or something that's really about diversity, or something that's about finding a college based on passions, or how to take care of our 3 and 4-year-olds to make sure they get that right start. So I learned so much. It's my professional development. It's really a passion for me. And so you can go to educationevolution.org, or any Spotify, any of the main podcast platforms have that. And it's great if you follow, and then it just gets dropped into your inbox every Tuesday morning.
Awesome. And what else did you want to share for us today? We still have 3 minutes left, so we have some time. Just hand
Yeah.
it to you.
Thank you. I just encourage parents to ask for more and to demand it, and to be at those board meetings, to be at that school. And a lot of times it can be, when I was in a huge high school, a public high school, we created a school within a school to get that micro experience. There are so many ways, whether it's public or private, to get smaller, to get more personalized.
Yeah.
We have a school district. Lake Washington is right across the across Lake Washington from us, that school district has these choice schools that it's a lottery system, and they use part of a building, and it's thematic. It could be environmental, it could be STEM. There's so many ways to make smaller happen and let kids have more of their passion and purpose. So come on, we don't have to have this assembly line, but we have to change the policies. We have to work with schools. We all have to work together to make it happen.
Beautifully said. All right. If someone does want to reach out to you to work with you again in the Seattle area now, I know, but you do virtual online work as well, correct? Or
I
is
do
it
some coaching.
okay?
So,
Good.
but our school is in
Is
person.
in Seattle. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thanks again so much for being here, for joining us. Really looking forward to it. Anything upcoming on your next podcast that we should be aware of?
Um, you just have to check in and see. One drop today. That was amazing. It's on neurofeedback, and we're actually using it with my older daughter. It's about rewiring our brains. So check it out.
Awesome. Thank you again. Pleasure having you back here and looking forward to the next time we speak. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.